I,
Okay. See,
I got in today and I thought, oh my gosh, I've got a few hives here and some on my,
the only thing is this is
a little more.
I see Mel.
Amen.
I
Hi.
see Betsy.
Yeah,
I
but if
glad
you
made
really-
it. Carolyn's here. Yeah.
I,
years.
And
you're not going to take her on walks with that. Yeah.
I just don't know many of you,
Let's see.
but I'm so happy that you're
The
here.
only thing is, see, I have to put it on.
Actually activate the fight or flight responses in the body.
Sometimes people cannot share their image and still get good, strong reception. And I understand that. If it's possible to share your image, even for a little while, that's great. It just kind of connects us a little bit more if you can. But if you can't, I understand. And I do want to tell you that our wonderful harpist, Brenda, and I are in Central Virginia, and I hear the thunder, and earlier it was lightning. And if we get kicked off, it's not you. It's don't take it personally. And if we can get back on, we will. And if not, we'll see if we can arrange a time to record this and give you the recording, So how many of you, this is a nice group. What do we have? 17 people all together. This is great. How many of you, and you might have to use the little, at the bottom of the screen, there's a reaction button if you're on a computer. If you're on a phone, I don't know where that is. But I was just wondering how many of you have actually walked a labyrinth before? Okay. So some of you haven't. Hi, Patty.
Hi.
Nice to see you. Yeah. Okay. Well, good. I'll give you some the way it's usually done. some suggestions. I'm also going to suggest an intention, but I always say if you have brought your own intention, please go with it, because that's your allurement today. So in the interest of respecting your time, because some of you may just have an hour, and this might take an hour. And oh, by the way, our harpist, we have live harp music. Brenda this is a very busy time of year for her professionally, and we are just so lucky that she volunteered for this. So when her part is finished, she's going to have to leave. And again, it's not you, it's these intervening circumstances. So let's see, I'll give you a time to share where you're from, and if you know your the original peoples who were on your land, in the chat. And the chat button is at the bottom, and if you could mute yourselves, that would be delightful, because there's a lot going on. So if you could mute yourselves during this, that would be great. Okay. Are there any burning, and if you have to have a question, you might want to raise your hand with the reaction button. No. Okay, then I'm going to get rolling. All right. Somebody still is not muted. And I just don't want there to be a distraction or annoying for anyone else. I was a teacher for 44 years, so it won't bother me. I'm used to noise. Okay, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get going. And I will be telling you kind of the way we do this in Veritas. Veritas is one of the 4 big organizations, international organizations. They're the training arm of Labyrinth development. They train people to be facilitators like me, because we've found that if people have a good first experience, maybe they'll walk the labyrinth again. And I personally believe that this is a powerful tool Lauren Artist thinks it's a divine archetype. Does everybody have a labyrinth today? Did you bring a labyrinth? Because you're going to need a handheld labyrinth. And we offered, yeah, the paper ones. Good. If you're using a paper one, you can use a crayon. You can use one color in and one color out. Or what helps feel when we get to that point, which will be in a few minutes, more like walking, maybe draw one symbol, like maybe circles going on the way in, and maybe leave room in between and X's on the way out. That's kind of like the steps, one step at a time, one step at a time. Okay. If you have one like this, or maybe yours is wooden with a groove, you can actually use your non-dominant hand and close your eyes and walk it that way, if you choose to. Okay, so let me kind of get started. I'm going to share my screen. And I wanted to tell you that I learned during the pandemic. I learned from Kahontakwa's Diane Longboat. I remember her as Diane Longboat. And she's a Haudenosaunee, a Mohawk elder. And she taught me that in her community, anything they start, anything begins with an invocation of thanks. An invocation of thanks. And I thought, wow, that's cool. And it took her about 10 minutes to go through hers, and it won't take me that long. And Gary Snyder, the poet, even wrote a poem condensing it a little bit. The point is to try to put our minds together, to make our minds, our mental energy cohesive. And then I was doing some reading of Robin Wall Kimmerer, and she has this wonderful cycle that I just love. It's like, if we pay attention to something or someone, and today we're talking about our earth, right? If we pay attention to elements of our earth, we begin to realize, wow, we didn't do anything to receive this beauty, or to receive this food, or to receive this gravity that grounds us. We begin to realize that these are gifts. And when we start thinking of them as gifts, we become grateful. So it works hand in glove with Diane Longboat, the invocation of thanks. We develop gratitude. And Robin Wall Kimmerer talks about how then we start to think of them, the things around us, as relatives. And you've heard Native people refer to the tree people and the fish people and the mineral, the rock people. You've heard that. I've heard that. And when we think of them as relatives, we pay more attention to them, and the cycle begins again. So it's a lovely cycle. And I thought about, in my tradition, the main prayer has this gimme attitude, this gimme phrases, give us this day. And I didn't find the word thanks anywhere. And so I've kind of rewritten it for myself. And now it's thank you for everything. You've given us everything. So that's kind of how I started wanting to do this. Plus, I was in some circles that did some acknowledgments. So that this is where we are. I'm just going to begin for a couple of minutes. I honor the cosmos. I look north and I honor the earth of which I'm made. I look east and I honor and I am thankful for the air within my lungs. I look south and I am thankful for the warmth of the sacrificing sun that basically feeds me through photosynthesis. I look west and I honor the water that I can't live without. I would die without water. I look above me and I honor the stars. Their dust gave me the calcium in my bones. I honor the stars. And I look below me and I honor the minerals and the microbes, which provide unseen grounding and essential communication. essential communication of the microcilia. And I look within and I honor my soul. I honor the divinity within me, which yearns to acknowledge and balance the web of which I am just a minuscule part. I am so grateful. And looking more to my immediate environment, I honor the original peoples, custodians of my land in central Virginia in the eastern foothills of the Blue Ridge Mountains. I honor the Monacans, the largest Indian tribe in Virginia today. And I regret that you, Monacans, had to fight in US courts to define your ancestral homeland. I'm sorry for that. I thank you for your wisdom. So this is, if you want to add your place in chat, that would be fine. And in some of you didn't, well, I guess everybody who wanted to held up your labyrinth. I hope you have one today. Because today we're about honoring our mama, our Mother Earth today. And I want to start with friend of mine said, oh, you really need to Google this. This is an amazing story, you know. And I learned, this is quick. When did this start? Well, it started, Rachel Carson's book, Silent Spring, was published in 1962. And in 1969, there was this massive oil spill in Santa Barbara, California. And then you also had the student anti-war movement that was accomplishing some things. And Senator Gaylord Nelson, a junior senator from Wisconsin, started this. He'd been interested in the environment for ages and ages. And he put together a team to spread this and deliver this and teach this throughout the United States. And I don't know his party affiliation, but he had a very conservative Republican on board with him, which I think is very nice to remember. So in 1970, when this got started, 20 million Americans celebrated Earth Day. 20 years later, it went global and multiplied by 10 and went to 141 countries. And today it is, let me just move this little thing here. It is the biggest secular observation in the world, marked by more than 1 billion people every year as a day of action to change human behavior, create global, national, and local policy changes. And that makes me think about Matt Fox calling and Thomas Berry saying, you know, we need new rituals. And I think Earth Day, we're finally realizing this is our common story, and we can make this a big part of our ritual. So I see that that's what's going on, I think. So we're going to start, whoops, I don't know why it doesn't want to do that anymore. Okay. I can't, there we go. We're going to start with a song. And it's a song you might know. And if you don't, it's very easy. And it starts out with the part on the right. And if you have this little black thing, Earth, my body, it's Mother Earth talking to us. Water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. And I like to put, in my chair, I like to put some motion to this. In creation spirituality, we talk about body prayer. So you'll hear Judith Tripp sing, and you can do this with me if you want. Earth, my body. You'll just kind of like move your feet and touch your legs because your legs are talking to the earth. Water, my blood, make it flow like water. Air, my breath, and then go out with your left hand. And fire, my spirit. Earth, my body. Water, my blood. Air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Then you're going to hear Judith do this beautiful overlay. By my life, be my spirit. By my heart. You know, and you can put your own body prayer to this. By my life be I spirit, by my heart be I would say woman, you can say human, you pick. By my eyes be I open, by my hands be I whole. So this only takes about 1.5 minutes, and if we were in person, we would be standing on the labyrinth and we would do this together and warming up the labyrinth and creating our circle. So we're doing that virtually. So let's see if I can start this. Okay, I'm at more. Share computer sound. Okay. We just did this. Let's see. Here we go. Ready?
Blood, air my breath, and
And
fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my breath, air my breath, and fire my spirit, and earth my body, water my air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water air my breath, fire my spirit, my body, water my air my breath, and fire my spirit, my body, water my air my breath, and fire my spirit, my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, my body, water my air my breath, and fire my spirit, my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit, earth my body, water my blood, air my breath, and fire my spirit.
Thanks. Hope you liked that. There we go. So, you know this. I won't belabor this. The planet is much older than any of us. Over 4 billion years old. Of course, our cosmos, the Big Bang, the first flaring forth was almost 13.8 billion years ago. So it took a while for Earth to show up. And if you read Nat Fox's daily meditation, he did such a beautiful job of describing how our planet is this Goldilocks planet. It's just in the right spot. Not too hot, not too cold, not too rocky, not too gaseous, it's tilted just right for things to grow. It's perfect. And I would advise us to maybe think about how perfect it is when we are talking about the path of awe. And I'll get to that in a little bit. So we haven't been here that long, a few 100,000 years. And the Industrial Revolution occurred, what, a few 100 years ago? And it didn't take long, did it? You know, now we are more up until now, more creatures were evolving, more life was being created every year, every day. And now the opposite is happening. More species are dying off. Yeah. And it makes us kind of sad. And I'm not going to let us get sad. But yesterday, this always happens when I have something to prepare. Things start coming to me that I think are perfect for what we're going to be talking about. Yesterday in Richard Rohr's meditation, he quoted, shared with us the ecologist and pastor, I don't know, Andy Lloyd, talking about lament and the land's lament, speaking of a foundational ecological truth. When one part of creation goes awry, the whole thing suffers. The land's grief at what the people have done points to the fundamental reality of our interconnection. So that the stuff going on, the death of the planet, and I shouldn't speak, it's not the death of the planet, but the species, the fires, etc. It's talking about how things aren't working out the way they're supposed to right now. And Andy Lloyd, actually, I guess this was Richard Rohr, even quoted Walter Brueggemann. Grief spoken aloud is the opposite of denial. Lament is prophetic speech. And I don't think I thought of it that way before. It bears faithful witness to all that's not right with the world and to all that's not right with us. So the second path of creation spirituality can be the path of lament. It can be the path of entering silence, letting nothingness be nothing, but it can be the path of lament where we rage and we say, this isn't right. And we're sad and we cry and maybe we scream. And that's important because we don't want to deny the facts, what's really happening. Now, let me see, here we go. But I do want to point out that this is not Earth's first crisis. This is not the first time. I have to get my facts because I don't have these necessarily memorized. The first crisis on this planet was actually about 2,500 million years ago. And it was the first great extinction, the oxygen crisis. Now we know we survived, we're here, right? And so that should give us some hope. But what happened, I mean, there was just, life was, the little protozoa, I believe they were reproducing so abundantly that too much oxygen was being emitted, and that became a poison, okay? And then about 540 million years ago, the animal population was allowed to explode, and that gave us, these were some of the animals, and they're important for us today. Jellyfish gave us the first mussels that eventually came down in DNA and got passed on. It was a good thing to have a mussel, and we have mussels. And trilobites, these little guys up here, gave us skeletons and eyes. And that was good. And so that got passed down to us. Worms, believe it or not, gave us brains and backbones. That's really hard to wrap my head around, but that's what worms did. Then about let's see, 500 million years ago, the first plants and fungi happened, and animals and insects and fish and amphibians and reptiles. You know how it goes on. But the greatest mass extinction ever, which was a mystery, we don't know why, was 245 million years ago. And mammals kind of came out of that, right? Mammals came from that. But then, you know the story about the dinosaurs dying 65 million years ago, and an asteroid hit the Yucatan off Mexico, and some birds and some mammals, little ones, they think, under 55 pounds, survived. And that is important because if mammals hadn't survived, we wouldn't be here. So that's pretty important to think about. We can trust the universe. So it's kind of like one of these both and things. The land's mourning speaks of a vision of the world as it ought to be. It's not yet, because we've messed up the balance. It's a beautiful fabric, but here we go. It also speaks of the truth of the world as it is. Too much injustice, too little love, fraying the threads that hold that beautiful fabric together. And the land feels those frays. Mama feels those frays. The land grieves those fraying threads. And yet I tell you, we can have hope. And why do I say this? Because Brian Swim says we should begin with the whole, that we are the first generation. Let me get to my paper. That can see the whole. We can see, we know that the universe is expanding. It's not getting narrow. It's not finished. We are not humans in a finished universe. We are evolving energy, we humans, within an evolving universe. And that's really important because the future's calling us forth. And the future, whatever it is, we have a say in. And so if we begin with the whole, we can see it's not finished yet. We can look for the cosmological dimensions of ordinary moments. And I'll give you some examples. We're the generation that's learned that the universe is a developing reality. We have pictures of it from the web, for goodness sakes. It's not a place inside of which things change. It's not finished yet. Okay, so cosmological dimensions. Let me go to this doesn't always want to. Here we go. This is a lovely story that Brian Swim tells in his book, Cosmogenesis, where Thomas Berry is speaking in a cathedral, no less. And he's telling a story that came to us from the Middle Ages. I'm pulling up something I'm gonna want to read to you. It's short, it's not very long, but it goes like this. 3 men were carrying stones, and the first man was asked, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm carrying stones." And the second man was asked, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm providing for my family." And the third man was asked, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm building a cathedral." So Thomas Berry says, we live in a new time. I don't think anybody my age could deny that. I mean, I didn't write papers on the internet or using Google or the computer when I was writing papers before. We ask these same questions of ourselves, and it's important to ask those questions. What am I doing today? What's my purpose today? But we can now provide a bigger response, a larger response. In the activities of our daily life, we perform specific tasks. Yes, we carry stones. In our intentions, we aim to provide for our families. Yes. But we are also involved with a work so vast, we could not conceive it in former eras. We are Earth. We are a living, sentient planet. We are carrying further the creativity that brought forth the stars and the galaxies, trillions of galaxies. Whether we're fully conscious of this or not, it is happening. We live in a time that offers a significance only matched by the birth of life itself, life on Earth 4 billion years ago. So, I love that. We are building a cathedral. So I wanted to read you one other little thing, because sometimes when this doesn't make much sense to me, and actually Thomas Berry and Brian Swim make a lot of sense to me, I go back to the mystics. And I went back to Rumi, an Islamic mystic, a poet. And he wrote a poem called An Evolving Course that says it so beautifully. We began as a mineral. We emerged into plant life and into the animal state, and then to being human. And always we have forgotten our former states, except in early spring, when we dimly recall being green again. That's how a young person turns toward a teacher, how a baby leans toward the breast without knowing the secret of its desire, yet turning instinctively. So humankind is being led along an evolving course through this migration of intelligences. And though we seem to be sleeping, there's an inner wakefulness that directs the dream. It will eventually startle us back to the truth of who we are. It will startle us back to the truth of who we are. And actually, before I get to this, I am going to stop the share for a minute because the point I'm trying to make is that the future is involved in activities now. We follow our allurements. What is it that's attracting us? That's not just nice. That's the universe calling us to follow that path and do something with it because the universe needs it. We in the Labyrinth movement, we know that labyrinths have shown up during particular crisis points. I think about the what was happening on Crete when the Cretan labyrinth was being used. I think about what was happening during the mini Renaissance in France when the labyrinths went into all the cathedrals. And I think about what's happening now. You know, it was 20, 25, 30 years ago that Lauren Artris made her commitment to share her heart song, The Labyrinth, with us. And I think we need it because it's a moving meditation. It's a way for us, even now in all of our diverse places, to become cohesive, to join in this circle, and to unite our energy that something good happened to the earth today, that she knows something calming and sweet and healing today. So Brian Swimm's book, Cosmogenesis, he calls it an auto-cosmology. And he looked at his cosmological moments that led him to where he is today. And I might add, his wife helped him along the way and supported him and said, oh, we have to go then. We have to go. And he talks about the time when he met Matt Fox, and Matt Fox and Thomas Berry got together, and Brian was with them. And the two, Matt and Thomas Berry, were talking about Hildegard of Bingen. And Brian Swimm said, I just kept watching them and I didn't know what was going on, but I knew it was important. And it turned out that it changed his life. That's what led him to study with Thomas Berry, move his family cross country, leave his university position, and write his book, The Universe is a Green Dragon, for which we are immensely grateful. He went on to write Voyage of the Universe, etc., etc. So we have a role as servants that will enable Earth to blossom into its next, whatever that next is. Okay, I've said too much. I'm not going to read my last thing. But what I want to do now for you, I want to share my screen and go through. So a traditional labyrinth walk. Some of you might just know 3 steps: release, receive, return. Release on your way in, because a labyrinth is not a maze. A labyrinth has one path into the center. If you stay on the path, you'll get there. I like to think of it as getting to your center. And you come out the very same way you went in. So you release, you receive in the center, and then you come out and you return, because you can't stay in the warm, fuzzy center. You have to come back and live your life. And Lauren talks about releasing judgment. And I think about how judgment and prejudgment gets us into a lot of trouble today. Receiving discipline. And it's the discipline that helps us create. Everything, every art that's made requires discipline. And returning to our sacred action, our sacred work. But about 7 years ago, I noticed that a lot of facilitators were talking about a fourth step right at the beginning, remembering. And Lauren had even written about that, about remembering compassion. And I like to think about that as compassion for myself and for others, and compassion from those around me. So those are the traditional steps. And it was during the pandemic when I was studying a little bit with Christine Walters Paintner, I was studying Celtic spirituality. And she talked about the Celtic practice of circling whatever, sacred stones, sacred wells, sacred ruins, once, 3 times, 9 times. And I thought, and I had noticed some years ago that was a way some people were warming up the labyrinth. If the labyrinth hadn't been walked in a while, they just walked around the circumference. And I think it's important to be clockwise. That's my belief. I know there are other beliefs. So I thought, well, this coincides with the 4 paths of creation spirituality. So what I'm suggesting, my creation spirituality walk of the labyrinth, is to surround, when you put your hands on your labyrinth, even if it's paper, and you surround it, and as you surround it, you're thanking. Kind of the way I started out today. You're in awe. What is it that awes you about the universe? What is it that awes you about our planet? You're full of praise. And then when you enter, you're entering the silence, you're releasing the noise, you might be lamenting, you might be thinking of a lament for Earth today. When you're in the center, I think we spend time there listening. So we're leaving the silence, but we bring it with us so we can create. We're listening to what our role is to co-create with the universe, because that's where I get the message. What is my purpose for today? What is it that I have to create that maybe is a teeny weeny part of going forward? And then we come back to be rebirthed. We come back to our work, to our sacred work. So it's the same way you've always walked a labyrinth. If you have not typically circled beforehand with a finger labyrinth, with a handheld labyrinth, that's a really nice way of you warming up your labyrinth and getting going. So I think we're ready to start. I do want to show you, if I can. This is, if you have a question for me, if you have a comment, if you say, oh, I want this some more, or please don't do this again, this is an email address, CS for Creation Spirituality, Labyrinth, singular, no spaces, cslabyrinth@outlook.com. And if you forget that, I'm sure if you know anybody in the community, they'll try to get it to me. And I want to introduce Brenda Bowen Cox. She has generously volunteered to play music for us today. So I'm gonna leave this up if I can, so we can see one another. And there will be time afterwards. Brenda can't stay with us, but there will be time for any insights, any comments, whatever. So we're going to put our hands on our labyrinths, get comfortable. This will be about 10 minutes. And have a wonderful walk. Let's give Brenda a hand. I'll be in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Brenda.
So if you haven't finished walking, you might want to just continue. And if you have, if you didn't, circle again at the end. That's a really nice kind of closure I found to a handheld labyrinth walk. Oh, and I don't want to forget to thank each of you for being here and making this circle. It intensifies our intention. But now comes the nice time to share anything you want to share. Like some people receive insight or inspiration when they are in the center of the labyrinth, or ideas, you know. However, I must say, I always think of a labyrinth walk as being like a good massage. And that to me means it continues for time. It continues for 2-3 days sometimes. I've walked a labyrinth and I had a kind of a question and nothing came during the walk. But a few hours later, it was like, oh, I should do this, you know. So keep looking. So, okay. Anybody else? Yes, Carolyn.
I just noticed, you used the word discipline, and I have such a mixed reaction to that word. So I found myself really diving in a little bit more to try to explore, because I think if you have that mixed reaction, it can impact the discipline in your life and your creativity. So a link there between discipline and creativity, I don't know that I had made. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're welcome. And Matt makes a really, he makes a distinction. He says, discipline, yes, but not asceticism, you know. And I think about the avant-garde artists who break the rules, but they all have already learned the rules and practiced them for years before they break them. You know. Yeah, thank you for bringing that up, Carol. Anybody else?
Yeah.
Patty?
First of all, this was very unexpected and very refreshing. So I'm very glad I set some time aside for this today. I really am. So I'm grateful. And you just knocked me out when you said grief spoken aloud is the opposite of denial. I mean, I really, really relate to that because John Lewis is my patron saint, one of my patron saints, and he's told us to make good trouble. When you see something that's not right, you need to speak out. And it's not speaking out from anger. It really is speaking out from grief, because it's such a lost opportunity. There are so many lost opportunities we have in our society, and I see all these mass shootings and everything, and that's the perfect example of a totally lost opportunity for lost lives, lost young, precious lives. And yeah, grief spoken aloud is the opposite of denial. Thank you.
Oh, you're most welcome. Thanks for bringing that up. That, of course, I read that in Richard Rohr's, I don't know, I can't remember now if it was from him or that pastor, Andy. Yeah, thanks, Patty. Anybody else? Or maybe questions that came? I think we had folks from Ireland, Canada, and I spread around the US. I don't think we have any from down under, do we, Nathan? I don't think so. Yes, Mel.
Yeah, I just found that very meaningful. I didn't know how it would be to do it just on paper, but it was amazing how I felt like I was actually walking through it. And as I look at my little marks, I feel like my path is still there. So I'm still walking and traversing in it. And it gave me confirmation of some of my other intentions for the day. So that was nice.
Yeah, thank you. Some people think that now I'm going to make a distinction here. There are tried and true labyrinth designs, like the two we sent you, the classical and the Chartres. Those have been used and they work. That's all I'm going to say. There are modern ones, and I'll leave it to you to try them and see if they work for you. But some people feel that when you walk into a labyrinth, you connect with every other labyrinth and all the people who have ever walked a labyrinth, which is kind of woo-woo, but if we are energy, just flowing energy within flowing energy, why not? I don't know, but I brought up the tried and true because that's sacred geometry. That is a design that is built on nature. That is what works. And it holds us in this very, very, very safe space where we can go in and do whatever work we need to do, I think. It's sort of like a crucible. Whatever has to happen can happen, I think. But then, this is like the unification of my two heart songs, creation, spirituality, and the labyrinth. Here I am. Anybody else? Well, it really did take us about an hour, which is what it usually does take. We'll be, I don't know, stay tuned. We might do this again sometime. We have no plans right now. This was our maiden voyage, however. And Nathan, you said it's going to be in the practices.
Yeah, so I'm creating a new space on our Mighty Networks community that's going to be called Spiritual Practices, and I'm going to put the recording there. I'm also going to put it underneath the event that was set up for today, and then I'm probably also going to put it on our YouTube channel.
I did want to tell you, a friend gave me a traveling labyrinth years ago, and it's soft and it'll fit in your suitcase. And I never remembered to pack it. Right? But then I learned about this wonderful app called Labyrinth Journey, which I've downloaded on my phone. So it's with me in any doctor's office or whatever. And it is the coolest little thing. It's by Mount Mojo. And I think they're nice people, because when they went off my phone, I emailed them and they said, oh yes, I have an Android. They said Android did some reboot and kicked us off, but we'll figure it out. And so a few months later, they emailed me. We were back up now, so they're very nice, real people. When you start walking, let me see now. Okay. Well, at the beginning, you get this lovely little, it's kind of glowing in the center. And then when you start walking it, does anybody else know about this? No? You get this lovely blue path. And you have to concentrate, because on my phone, it's tiny. I guess you can put it on a computer too. And then I'm not going to walk the whole thing, but when you get to the center, it kind of goes boom, and sort of like a dandelion or fireworks or something. And each of the petals, which some people think has special significance, each petal lights up. And then when you're ready to leave and you get all the way out, each petal, the light goes away and you get another boom. It's really kind of nice. So, and you can I just love this little app, and I was really sad when it went away. And anyway, so that's something you might want to know about, another way to walk the labyrinth. Well, and Nathan, if we could just talk for a minute, maybe afterwards.
Sure.
Just not very long. Yes.
Mary Ann, thank you so much for offering this today. What a wonderful way to start off while I'm on the Pacific Coast, but Earth Day, fabulous way for us to focus. So thank you so much for your initiative and beautiful, kind offering.
You're welcome. Since it's raining here in Virginia, this is a perfect way for me to do it, Barbara, it's nice to see you again. We did some nice sharing in small groups.
Yes, yes. This was, Labyrinth always strikes me as centering, but I never would have thought by tracing it on the paper, I would have come to such a centered place. And it's a wonderful way to start my weekend, and I thank you very much for it. It's a gift.
You're welcome.
Total gift. Yes.
I bought this when I went through training, and I bought this really just to hold up and show people what I was talking about, right? And then the pandemic came, and Veriditas started, the organization that trained me, started having Friday, we all call them finger walks, but they're handheld labyrinth walks. And it's amazing. Now that was in 2020, the pandemic. So we're in the third year now. 2020, 2021, 2022, we're in the fourth year now. And it's amazing. The community, they share, please pray for, or they share their heartaches. Some people go every week. A lot of people who were going had to stay home because of immunocompromised systems. And a lot of us go when we can, And now it's like the first and third Fridays the walk is held, and it's just veriditas.org. It's and I can spell that for you in a minute, but I'm trying to remember now. It's the later walk, so it's 4 o'clock Pacific time, and the second and fourth Fridays it's noon Pacific, and the fifth Friday you just have to pay attention. It's what people want to do. But every Friday, free walk. All you have to register. It's not like this one where you could just press the link and come anytime. You have to register, and they send you the link. And that's just because it's such a big organization. They want to make sure it stays, just with the people who are serious about it. Veriditas is VERIDITAS.org. And you go right now anyway, when you get there, you go down maybe three sections and you just register. So, I mean, but none of us knew. Even Lauren Artris said, she didn't know the power of a figure labyrinth could hold. And I believe it's the power of the circle creating the cohesive field where we meet, as well as the power of the labyrinth itself, that focuses us and speaks to us. And it's amazing that it works, and it's worked for so many people for so long now. It's amazing. So I'm glad you liked it today. Well, bye-bye. Thank you for coming.
so much.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Betsy, see you Wednesday.